morning. We created a search portal for rescue pets, and it turns out the two of us are owners of rescue pets. So this was a theme that struck a chord with us. And by way of introduction, let's actually start with a video. So this is a video of a rescue pet named Benji. Step aside for a minute. So that was a truncated version of the story of a dog named Benji, who was a street dog all his life. When they found him, they didn't find any chips, and he had basically just subsisted on the streets from handouts that people were throwing to him. And when he was found, he had fleas all over him, and he was not in good shape. And so there are many animals like that, like Benji, who perhaps to a lesser extent have experienced neglect, abuse, and so forth. So we created a project to match those kinds of pets with people who are able and who wish to take them in. And so the focus in our design was to try to create a narrative that would allow us to put together a story of animals who need love with people who are able to provide love for these animals. So should we get to the demonstration?
Sure.
Okay.
It's pretty self-explanatory, but there's also instructions here. I'm going to go ahead and look for a terrier in Manhattan. Oops. And as you can see, each of the little paws that drops down represents one available animal to adopt in that zip code. If you mouse over it, it shows a picture of the animal plus some information about them. A lot of them have phone numbers. You can click and drag them apart so that you can see all of them in that area. It's just by zip code. They don't have specific addresses, so keeping them on the exact same spot isn't very crucial for this. Most of the ways you would contact the pets is by phone number. On the left here, it pulls up a heartwarming YouTube video of the type of animal plus the breed of animal you searched for. I'm going to go ahead and show you some things we were looking forward to incorporating. So we did have some other ideas about layout. One of the problems we ran into, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it, is because it was kind of interesting, is actually the Z indexing in CSS. By the time we figured out that was the problem, there wasn't really enough time to completely lay everything out. But with this, we can do the same search. And you'll just see that it's more of a similar color scheme, and it's just a little bit different. We also have the option to log in. Well, I think I am logged in. Let's look for another kind of dog. What about poodles? Not any poodles in this area. Okay, sorry about that. There we go. So looking forward, we want to be able to save a list of animals so that you can use this to keep track of people you're talking to, make notes about it. A lot of these, this is a really interesting API. Chris will talk about it more. But one of the things that is cool about this is that individual people and pet shelters with not a lot of resources, anybody can post to this API. So there are actually a lot of dogs and cats here that otherwise would not have much of a platform to be seen by people. And this is a way where people can find dogs that might otherwise be very hard to place and contact them themselves. Chris, do you want to talk about the API?
Okay. So the meat and potatoes of this program pretty much starts off with the rescue groups API. So first and foremost, I have to say that the documentation for like the rescue groups is terrible. Like sifting through the information, like half of it doesn't even half the documentation is taken out, and then the other half it barely translates into what it actually shows you. So for the broad strokes of how this search works is there's going to be three main things. How many results you want to show from result start to result limit. So we're showing about 10 results. Fields, we'll come back to that in a second. Filters is how are your search parameters or how you're going to look for something. And you break that up into three different kinds of parameters. So the first one is field name, obviously the name of the field that you're looking for. In this case, we're looking for an animal species. There's only two types, which you can put it into the criteria, cat or dog. And operation, there's 4 types of operations that you can put into this. Equals means it has to exactly be dog, no more, no less. It'll look for that. Contains means as long as it contains the word dog, you could put the word boxer. It'll find like boxer with short hair, long hair, all that fun stuff. And then there's radius. It's only used for location. So the criteria would be like 100 miles, 90 miles. And finally, there's going to be something called, which we're not using here right now. It's called not blank, meaning whatever the field name you put into it, the criteria must not be blank for it to show up. And then once you have the search parameters, the information that shows up is going to be called fields. So all of this will be showing up in the JSON format at the end when we pull it up. So pretty much Ajax call puts it up into an information, into a format, and then we call it animal name here, but you could call it anything. And then once we have all the information that we need, we put it into pet info, and then we push it out into other functions, which Han's going to talk about.
So just to take a step back and talk about the big picture. What happened to our one? So in terms of the broad picture, the user input that was captured from the breed here and the zip code here are passed on simultaneously to several different APIs. We used 4 altogether. Those were the Rescue Groups API that Chris just talked about, YouTube API, Google Maps API, and the fourth one called geocode.io that I'll talk about in 1 second. So going all the way up to the click event, when the user presses submit, it triggers several different functions. YouTube query basically takes the keyword and passes it onto a YouTube search. User zip code query takes the user zip code and passes it onto Google Maps ultimately and centers the map. And rescue groups query, which is the one that Chris just talked about. So again, just in broad strokes, the information is passed on from one function to another. For example, I'll just show you This is a for loop where each animal is retrieved, and then a function gets called to retrieve their location, and then put a marker on the map for each pet. So that's broadly how it works. And Will, do you want to talk about other front-end considerations and whatnot?
Sure. One of the things is the marker itself. That's in the main file. Oh, I'll just look in here where I know where it is. The marker itself is, it's a pretty cool tool. You can just do it as an SVG. What's really nice about SVGs is that that is an image format that you can look at strictly in text. So this here, this variable dog paw, the path is the SVG path, and all of those are coordinates. The first two, 1 and 1, represents where it is in relationship to the space. So that was the tricky part to figure out, is that the first two coordinates needed to be changed to 1 so that it wouldn't be off-centered. But other than that, if you have a tool like Inkscape or Illustrator, you can take any SVG drawing, copy the path, and use that as an attribute in creating a Google map icon that works with the API. Another thing we did with the Google Maps API was I used Snazzy Maps in order to be able to find a style for the map and tweak it. The original map that I found on Snazzy Map, it was great base colors, but it had a lot of greens and yellows. Typically, greens and yellows are associated with sickness. Obviously, you don't want that for a pet adoption site. So I changed things to more blues and linen-like colors, things you would associate with maybe clean fabric.
We'll open the floor up to any questions you guys might have.
Where did you guys find the animal API?
It was actually, I believe actually I came across it on a list that Al had slacked out earlier. Yeah. It's actually a very open API in terms of that. There are no, once you have that API key, they don't impose any kind of limits on the queries that you can make. So we tried not to abuse it when we were testing it out, but it was a really cool API to learn from.
Was it returning a lot of information to you guys?
Yeah, actually, we had I think when we first started testing, we got like 10,000 results or something like that.
I'll answer that. Yeah. Pretty much, there's a lot of information, but it's kind of each individual result varies from one animal to another. Some animals, like they fill up the whole entire everything that's needed. Some are just like, okay, here's our name, and here's where you could find the animal. That's pretty much. It varies from each one.
Yeah. I think Al, you had a question, and then Diego.
Is there any particular reason to use the geocode API that you mentioned rather than?
Oh.
Because I think Google Maps has one too.
Yeah. So that's a good question, and I actually didn't get to talk about geocode.io, but the simple answer is that it was just a little bit easier to use. So for those who didn't work with Google Maps API, so geocode.io is an API that takes any kind of either zip code or town and state, for example, and turns it into latitude and longitude that Google Maps API requires to place these markers. And the simple answer is it was just a little bit easier to use. And we actually ended up having a problem yesterday because for whatever reason, it was returning forbidden errors, like 4 or 3 errors. And we weren't sure if it was something that we were doing wrong or if it was a problem on their end. So it did actually create problems when a dependency like that broke. Yeah. I think Diego, you have a question?
I see the pins drop on the map. Do you feel like for future development for like shelters, do you feel like they can really use something like this to really put out the extensive amount? Because I only see a few, right? So the amount of pets that are available for adoption are pretty extensive.
Yeah. So
I feel like shelters, locations, should be something like you guys could work on in the future.
We actually could have shown a lot. Like there's actually obviously thousands of hits that will show up. But the thing is, we wanted like I said before, we limited the information, so it has to show a certain amount of information. Like we wanted to show like 4 different things. It had to show like the address, a telephone number, a website, and then like certain other things that we wanted, just so you know how to find these pets. But there's definitely a lot. There's definitely a lot more pets there than we're showing right now.
Also, for the sake of speed, in the demo, the limit is set to 10 results.
Any other questions?
So, maybe give a little bit of feedback.
Joseph?
All right, cool. So, a couple of things. Great job. I love the fact that you guys were able to get it fully working, and it does serve a clear use. It's very apparent that there's many more iterations it will be useful. I have like a variety of notes, some of which I'll share, some of which I'll kind of maybe share in the background. One of them is to start by introducing yourselves. You want to always start strong, and I see what you were doing with the videos. That was good. So other things that a lot of people, I think generally speaking, almost all of you recommend from specific feedback, is try to speak as loudly as you can. It just makes you seem more confident. Other things I remember thinking as I was watching, so I think you guys did a good like MVP, it's like a good minimal viable product. But there were, I think, other places where you could have made quick wins that would have dramatically improved what it looks like. So for example, adding things like a nav bar starts to give it a different look, right? If you added more filters that the user could search off of, things like has phone number or not, then you would avoid the situation where you have marked as a general phone number. And you sort of still give yourself flexibility. So I think like for all of you, I think I'm going to say common theme in you want to sort of throw in APIs, you want to throw in information, but sometimes what you actually need may be like a really slick GUI, more so than API data, right? So in the next 2 projects, that almost that thing will tighten up. Let me see if there's anything else. I liked your explanation of API a lot. That was great. I liked the explanation of SVG. That was very cool. We're going to talk about that for D3, so that's cool that you guys figured it out. And like the fact that you use Inkscape or Illustrator, that's a practical tip. Other things that I thought was really good, like fun, when you ask questions, you do a really good job answering it. So another thing you probably may realize is it's almost easier to talk about technology when somebody asks you a pointed question, but it's harder to know what to talk about otherwise. So for all of your presentation, I would actually encourage you take a step even further back and say things like, we use jQuery to run these calls, or we use Materialize, because those things aren't necessarily obvious to the person watching your presentation, right? Like, especially if it's like, oh, I don't know, right? So, anyone else have any feedback you want to offer?
Excellent presentation, clean. You guys divided the work very well and simply, and perfect offset. Yeah.